Welcome to Set Life. I'm Amber Buto, and this is
Tyler Childs.
And we have another friend of the studios today. I am so excited to get to hear your story, talk about your story, hear your career, how you got started, and everything else. So welcome to the show, Sara.
Thank you. Thanks, Amber.
Yes. Okay, so what we just love to do here is hear people's stories from the industry. And you have a fun and exciting story of where you came from and where you are now, how you got started, if you knew you were going to be in this business or thought you were going to be in this business or dreamed of being in it. Kind of take us on that journey. Take us way back. Like, did you know?
Like way back when. I did, but let me start from the beginning, which is going to be a long freaking journey. So let me see how I can kind of like wiggle it around and like start from the beginning. Okay, so I actually was in music first. So I started musical theater. Okay. So I was doing musical theater. I mean, probably like 15, 20 years ago. I mean, I started pretty young. Yeah. And I went through trials, tribulations, in essence, like, I was using my voice so much, and I'm kind of like outspoken sometimes. And with that, like my throat, like, I mean, so at one point I went to a voice doctor. This is a long story, but I'm going to make it short, long story shorter. Okay. Potentially, is basically I had vocal fatigue and went to a voice doctor, Dr. Stasny, amazing medical center here in Houston. And then I went to 2 therapists for speech pathologist and a singing specialist. At that point, changed my life. So I was like 11 or 12 at the time, utilizing my voice so much and that I was so hoarse and on the brink of like, I can't speak. Oh, wow. So I had to relearn everything. And I was on voice rest, wore a little button on my shirt when I went to school that said, you can't talk to me. All my teachers knew. So nobody held it against me. Like yeah.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah. It was, and it's at the brink of teenagehood, for girls, it's like a whole nother story. And so that happened, but that literally like transformed my life. What seems to be something that at the time, at the time it seemed like, oh, that's the end of the world. I'm a teenager and I can't talk to my friends and stuff like that. That ended up being the turning point because when I met my singing specialist, Dr. Radionoff, she was like my voice mommy. Aww. I mean, she transformed my life and I thought like, I'm going to do this forever. So I took singing and performing more seriously, even though I was already doing it. I took it like, okay, I might want to turn this into a career. Right. So at that point, 12 years old, I'm like, I'm going to continue with this. Yeah. And it's something passionate about because once you feel like you almost lose something, right? And then you get it and you're like, oh my God, that was such a miracle because it literally, that moment that you think so dark ends up being the biggest shining light in your life that transforms you. And I remember my mom taking me every Friday to the medical center, which is like in traffic, Houston traffic. If you know Houston, it's not pretty. Yeah. And so she would, and my mom's an angel and it turn things around and to make, to go to the next. I was doing that for a long time. So musical theater, I wrote songs since I was 10. And I thought music was like, my life. Of course, using my voice was so much a part of my life and writing music, performing is still such a huge part of my life. But the funny thing is the way life works, I was always putting music at the forefront. I thought that was my leading baby. Yeah. And what's so interesting is I believe in gut moments. Like when, it's like the divine speaking directly to you. And I feel like it happens all the time with me, with anybody, if we're willing and able to listen and open our hearts, it's there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And and so I was always watching the Oscars every year and I always turn to the Oscars and every single time I had this inkling within my being, within my gut that I'm supposed to be there. Yeah. And I kept fighting it. in the essence of like, no, acting's not my thing. Music's my thing. Acting's not my thing. Music's my thing. I don't know if I want to act. You know, I just love singing too much, you know, but who said I can't, you know, do
both,
all creative avenues.
Yeah.
And that was you know, again, long story longer. That was the turning point in the essence of going towards acting. So, and then that was maybe 4 years ago, and that
never looked back.
Never looked back.
What I think is so great is how in your story, what most could look at as a career ending thing, right? Like losing your voice, taking away what, you know, filled you or drove you or gave you your passion or your energy, all of that, for that to be taken away. And then your perspective of looking at that was like, oh my gosh, this was the best blessing for me. Like, I don't think that's always normal for people, okay? I'm just saying there's a lot of times that people are hit with situations like that and they truly succumb to it instead of rising above it and going, you know, I'm going to persevere through this and I'm going to see the silver lining in this to eventually pass. I always say if it's that darn bad, it's that darn good on the other side.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Yes. And at the time, I thought it was like the end of the world. Like, you know, I was 12 and I thought it's like, oh my gosh, I'm hitting rock bottom. Of course, you know, oh, I can't make the lead choir because I can't sing right now. I have to, you know, voice rest and yada, yada, yada. Oh, I can't do this. Like, you know, it was always that thought. Right now, I'm like, if that was the big, most miraculous moment of my life, thank you, God, divine, you know, whomever, you know, that everyone, but I swear to you, I was looking back, I know why it happened. In the moment, you're like, oh God, this is rock bottom. This is so bad. This is, and then afterwards, you know, you always wonder, what's the reason? What's the reason? And now I'm like, if that did not happen, that plummeted me up to the top. If that did not happen, I wouldn't have had that inspiration, that everything, that what might look like darkness in the moment is like the biggest, just like what you said, like the biggest miracle down the line.
Yeah.
So let's hold on to that. Know that that's to come.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because it is.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So singing's always been there. It's been a love. It's been a passion. Oh, help me. I wish I could sing, but I cannot. But that's great.
You probably can, but you just don't give yourself
and no
credit.
one would want to hear that. And so we'll say that's a bit like Kermit. Kermit's in there somewhere.
Kermit.
But
Still
Gotcha.
sings.
Yeah.
Kermit does sing, you know.
He was kind of famous for it, but I don't think
Very
this is
much so.
going to go.
Sounds like he has a frog in his throat, but
Yeah, correct.
Very famous for it.
Transferring that from singing, your singing career and what you've done in singing to then acting, and how much had to change when you're like shift gears.
Like theatrical to on cam.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the most I don't know if everyone's in the industry is going to agree with me. So I'm like, this is my perspective and my perspective alone. So what the average person might tell you is if you go from theater to acting on cam, because it's so intimate, because it's so subtle, it's very important to, you know, doing an acting class. And I did do that with various coaches, and because it was in front of a live audience, I continued my theatrical vibes. It wasn't until I was just like, hey, I'm just gonna do it just subtle and just be me in the moment, that it like transcended and very well.
That's good.
And so while people think oftentimes you need forgive me, more training, I'm going to be the person that says you don't.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, too much is too much, and it takes away the authenticity of the actor.
Agreed.
So, and to me, knowing key points, to me, it's like you always learn, you know, like, you know, like the stuff like martini shot, like the stuff that you know, it's like you always hear like, what was that? Like, you know, you're always learning I'm always learning something new, especially with the crew. Like, I'm like, what does that even mean? Da 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 da. But that's completely different. That's like, you know, being able to put yourself in a position, you know, to to do the work, and then you just naturally learn along the way. Versus like and certain things like for auditioning and yada yada, you know, it's good to know. You know, always film in a horizontal way. You know, this is how you slate. You know, certain things, but those are very technical. If you have the chops, and you know you have the chops, you know, trust it. You don't need extra training. And that's something, my sister has been an actress since she was the actor. I was the musician in the, you know, beginning until we both started doing acting. But I mean, she was scouted in California early on when she was a kid. We had to make the decision as a family, mostly, you know, her and mom, like, are we going to live half there, half here? Or are we going to continue with school? And then after high school, you know, continue with the Hollywood route or, you know, California. And, but one of the things the agent said, you know, the first thing he said is do not get any training. Like, you're a natural, you cry on the spot, you're good. You are so vulnerable and you're so real. Don't do it. Don't ruin you. So, I mean, that's my, I mean, whether or not people,
well, there are people that have
cents.
it or they don't, you know, we get people that come through and audition for us all the time, and it's either they have it or they don't. And then there are people that have been overtrained to the point where they do come from stage, and you're trying to get that subtlety. You're trying to get them I just want your eyes. I just want you to use your eyes. So, I mean, I think, there's definitely an element of you've got to have a certain level of chops.
No, completely. And the other thing that you may or may not vouch for is one thing that I noticed also, because getting more on the production side as well, but I love being in front of the camera, is something that's sometimes overlooked, but like almost every writer and producer, when I sit with them, they say the exact same thing. Go to the feeling in which that you are portraying. Stay there. You don't need to know word by word, line by line. When it gets too articulate or too specific, then it's so structured in such a way it doesn't sound real at all. So when people are too focused on learning their lines, like verbatim, then it doesn't come across as a real life.
You know, that was funny. I was watching a movie with Tom Cruise in it, and let's be clear, it was a Tom Cruise movie, and what he has earned by his career is the freedom to have liberty to ad-lib and also give that his character his own authentic self. So I was thinking from a writer's perspective, watching him carry out his scenes, and I'm like, I have not read a script, never ever, that said it like he said it. You know, I mean, the context is there, but he says it the way he says it, which brings that to life. You know, and I think that's kind of what you're saying. If you get so caught up in the skills of acting, so caught up in delivering those exact lines. Now, again, he did earn the rights to do that with his crew and directors and all of that. But it is creating that feeling, that moment, that's what you're trying to do, is convey the emotion of the film.
110%.
As an actor, as an actress, you're trying to bring those lines. You're putting emotions to those lines.
Yes,
to all the film.
Even as like a disclaimer with that a little bit is a lot of those actors have earned it. But they're also, I think there's a grace for new actors that are coming from these different worlds, like musical theater or, you know, commercial world, because that's different coming into the narrative world. But seeing the grace, even as you're talking about the set lingo and how they're coming in. And I've seen crews that when they know an actor's got the chops, like you see an AD team and you see a directing team and a producing team, there's grace there because they see what they're doing and they say, we see you've got it here. We want to help you foster that. We get that someone calls that Abbey singer and you may not know what the Abbey is, but that's okay because you're here and you're putting your best foot forward.
No, 110%. I mean, because I mean, if you have production and director on set and they know your capabilities and they know you as an actor, as a human, because that's what acting is. It's being human and connecting. Then it's like, they give you free will, free power. So I know, and I totally agree. I think if someone, you know, everybody knows what, if you need to go to training, and this isn't being cocky or egotistical, like I don't need it, you know, but if you realize, you know, it could really benefit you to get extra training, to understand the techniques, the changes and shifts, then it's advantageous for sure.
Well, I think at that point you're talking fundamentals of being on set, right? Like I think no matter how talented you are, like on the producer side of things or directing or anything, you need to be a PA.
Yeah.
Like you need to start in to get the understanding of the gist of everything. That's the technical part. Like, right, you need to have the big picture of what's being expected, what the set looks like, what the flow is. How do you best insert yourself into that environment with what you bring to the environment? So it's kind of, you can look at being a PA as the lowest job on the totem pole, or you could look at it as the broadest perspective of the totem pole, because you're not in one area, you're in all of it. So you're like up above seeing down into production. So now, like if you are just on the camera team, like you are at the camera, doing camera, listening to camera, that's it. You don't get to hear everything else that's going on at set. But as a PA, you're hearing all facets of the set and you're helping problem solve the whole thing. So it's actually good to go take an acting class that teaches you the lingo, teaches you what they're expecting, what is standard properness from the cast.
That's
you know, so you don't cross those two.
Right.
But as a honed in talent, if you have it really authentic and you have been given that and you just need to refine and tweak it a little bit, that's what I think we're talking the difference of.
I think all the time, a lot, that stuff has been overlooked quite a bit. Some of my favorite PAs are actors. When they we had a few PAs on this one feature we did last year, and they'd come to me and say, "Hey, now tell me what they're doing with this." And I'd say, "Okay, well, tell me about your experience," because I wasn't a part of hiring them. And I said, "Well, I'm an actor, but I figured like if the more I can just be on set, the better, because I just want to learn how to serve and I want to watch. I'm going to learn from these actors. I'm going to learn from the crew,
100%.
And to this day, I'm looking at some of these PAs going, man, they know what's going on. They are so rooted, and just the humility. And then I've even seen on the opposite side, I've got crew members that'll go take an acting class because they're like, I want to know. I want to know what. I love that. And so just as we're starting to see kind of that marriage of the two, it's been a unique perspective.
I love that too. Like being able to integrate on different areas and kind of know it all, like dip your toes into all of it. And it's fun. Like if you have a passion for this, like it's so important to get to know different aspects of the industry or just, on set. I love that. And something else is also, I notice as an actor and always like integrate with everybody on set. Compassionately and lovingly and get to know them. They're going to teach you something that you don't know.
Always.
And I'm always learning from makeup artists. I'm always learning from PA. I'm direct everybody. I've learned from everybody. And so the idea of just coming to set as an actor, for example, speaking on behalf of actors, just coming to set and just sitting in your spot. I understand, like, get in the zone, especially if it's a cry scene. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm the one that will go in my zone and be like, you don't want to mess with me. But being able to connect with each and every person and ask them questions, get to know them. Set to me, like, of course, like you show up and you do your job, but it's supposed to be fun. You're and getting to know people is remarkable. And you never know, and just because I see this with actors, and this is why I bring it up, you never know who you're gonna meet on set. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone to set and I've met different people who have I didn't know that they're doing production for XYZ. That's a very large production coming up, and they thought of me first, not because like I'm intentionally trying to me, intention's everything. And that's how I feel. I have to be real. So true. So I'm not going to do something to try to get, I never will do something. I think we're all winners. I think everybody's so beaubeaual and amazing and talented, and everybody, there's enough dreams to go around in this whole dang world. No competition. I don't believe in it. But when I meet someone, I want to get to know them. What's your background? What's your this? It's fun. And if we connect on that way, then I'll remember them and they'll remember me. So it goes both ways.
It reminds me, Tyler and I were on a feature this summer in Nashville together, and our lead actress, Danielle Nicolay, she she had that same energy, that same vibe. She was absolutely fantastic. And when you talk about a cry scene, this is when I say, this is the difference between somebody that's a born actress that knows it's been in the business. Now, don't get me wrong, she's super successful in her career. So she's done a lot to get to where she is.
Absolutely.
But we're standing on set, and her and I did a lot of things together. And she comes over between one of her scenes, and she's like, "So, did you get dinner booked? Or which place are we going?" We were looking at a couple of different restaurants. We were going to try some food after we wrapped. And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm still okay between this one or this one." And we're like, "Yay or nay?" And then they call her for her scene, and she goes over, and I walk around, and she's like, "I just can't believe." And I was like, "What? What just happened?"
Like quick snap.
Light
What just
switch.
happened? Holy,
That's remarkable.
Light switch.
That's remarkable.
it was
remarkable.
completely. I mean, she's just done it for so long, and she's refined that craft. But she knows how to just tap into
it real quick
and be able to do it. But her presence on set was that very thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean, she was
I love it.
kind to everybody. She got to know everybody on the on the crew.
Yeah.
From hair, makeup, to the PAs, to the gaffers, to the cinematographer, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
love
she
it.
was just kind to everybody.
Absolutely.
And everybody was like, well, we'd totally hire her again.
Mm-hmm.
Whole production crew was like, how do we work with her again?
I love it.
So what you're saying is the absolute truth. You know, I mean, in this business, we all want to work with people that make our life better, not harder.
Yeah. And have fun.
Yeah.
Like you want to
Possible.
work with people like, that you connect like on a human level, and you have fun.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, yes, it's work. Like, yes, we're doing work, but we got to love what we do.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's
Absolutely.
like, one of, I speak of acting coaches. One acting coach I love is Sue Hamilton, and she's out of LA. And Sue has a phrase that I just stick by, and it's have fun or quit. And she will tell you stories on how actors have come up to her in the middle of a set and said, I'm just not having fun. I don't know if this is for me. Like right before they're supposed to go on. And she is so funny. I mean, she is so funny because not everyone can do this, because I don't know if I could, because I'm like, oh, let's get it all, But she's like, oh, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And they're like, I think I want to go to Africa and I want to teach. She told me this story. I think I want to go to Africa and teach. And this was right before a show. She was doing a theatrical show, not for this particular one, because she does acting on stage and acting on camera. But then she said, you know what? You do that and you're good. And the actor left, and they had like an understudy step in. Yeah, it was one of those like right before, and she goes, "I got you." And she said she was all the other production members were like, "What did you just let her do?" And she was like, but she's like, "I swear to you, if you are not having fun, have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun. This is, let yourself, like, let it run through you.
Yeah.
And And if not, is it worth it? Ask yourself. So
I had a family member ask me about that this week. They were like,
Really?
"Tell me about your experience you just did 2 back-to-back features. Like, what was that like?" I said, "Well, I was doing about 16 hours a day." And they're like, "That sounds awful." And I was like, "I mean, it's exhausting." And they're like, "How many people quit?" And I said, "Not as many as you'd think." And they're like, "And people do that regularly." I said, "Yeah, I'm grateful that I have other things that I'm not doing movie to movie to movie or TV show." But I said, most of those crews we worked with literally go from show to show to show.
Yeah.
Like I have one friend who has not had a day off since we wrapped these other movies.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, how do they keep going?" I said, "Well, there's a phrase that a lot of these guys quote, the movie Fury. And I hear it on so many movie sets. And you'll hear someone an hour 14 of overtime, you'll hear, "Best job I ever had." And it's something that you'll hear a grip or a gaffer or a sound guy. They're rain in the mud. Man, we were doing a Western and we were in the mud and it's middle of the night. And I turn around and the gaffer's exhausted, just burnt out. And we're like, we got 2 more days. And he looks at me and said, "You got it in you?" He's like, "Best job I ever had. Let's do it, buddy. Giddy up." I'm like, it's that kind of cruise that I'm like, these are the ride or die guys. Like,
I love it.
you got to work with those
that.
guys. So our
Oh my God, I love it.
It's fun.
Yeah. So you're acting. Okay. So this year alone, I was reading part of your questionnaire and stuff that you fill out to come and talk. And So you have tell us about the work that you've done this past year and what you have coming up, because you've got a lot going on right now.
I do. I do. Okay, so I came out with a new album. So a new music album back in January. So it's actually a decade after my debut album, and that I released on my birthday. That's like kind of my thing. But although I have a lot more albums coming out, and I'm like, I don't think I can just wait a year every single time to do on my birthday. So at least it was just, but nonetheless, that's called Hear Me Now. It's very, very authentically written. And that's how I like to write. Very, very pure to heart and raw. So it's pop music, you'll have the whole pop shenanigans, but then you'll hear trap and you'll hear, I love Afrobeat. I love African music. So you're going to hear everything, but then the writing is what I love, probably one of the most, even though, singing is something I love so much. Writing, I probably love a little more, because I write from my heart. And so that's one of the things. And there's, it's explicit. I just want to say it out loud because there's cussing. Because I sing and cuss. And so there you go. And then I have another couple films releasing in the fall. One of which I'm not sure if they're doing a festival run first, but I was so excited. Specifically, I'm excited about all of them, but I'm very excited about this one called Confessions, because I got to do it with my sister. Oh, cool. And we're both, and it was, I know, so much fun, and really cool how that worked out. I auditioned for it, and I get the call from, this is so funny. I get the call from the directors, and said, hey, this script, let me just tell you. Okay, this script is about, I'm not giving it away, but it's about neurotic, personality disorder. Okay, fair enough. And then there's a mystery or like a thrill behind it. But the girl in itself has multiple personalities. Okay, so when I auditioned, I had to do like 3 different scenes of various personalities that was requested, and and I was very humbled because he was like, we had whatever amount of auditions and you stuck out. And what's really interesting, when I started researching you, this is what they said, when I started researching you from our pinpoint pick, I realized you have a sister in acting, and I went ahead and looked up her reel, and I looked into her agent and her, her work, and I realized y'all have exactly the vibe that I want together. So the way that they shot the film was very, very creative. It was very, very creative and remarkable cinematography and everything, and we were both the same person.
Whoa.
Yeah, we have just enough alike, but just enough different, attributes, and so he basically offered me the role all over the phone, and my sister. It was call Lisa. I'm like, I know she'll say yes because it's such a cool role, and we love a challenge. We love a challenge. That's I'm fun. Like, oh, me and Lisa have always wanted to play something crazy, a little crazy, because it's fun. It's it's dynamic, and you get to go all over the board. You get to laugh, you get to cry, you get to, and that's something we both wanted, and it was so funny. But that. So I'm really excited. I'm always excited. I love acting. I love doing everything. That one, I'm really, really excited about. What came out this past year was The Reading, and that starred Academy Award winner Monique. And so did the film with Monique, and it has one of my best friends. I'm gonna just applaud him so much, is Courtney Glade. And he's writer-director of the film, and he's remarkable. So, and so he produced it, Courtney Glade, alongside Lee Daniels and all of them. And and then so we had that come out this year, and then I have 3 or 4 films in pre-production. Yeah. So it's about to get busy in the fall. Yeah. But the summer is kind of like a little break before, the calm before the storm. Yeah. But I'm really excited, and I hope to do more with my sister. And I think we will. I think we're on that mindset, we have so many ideas and production ideas, and I'm starting to script write a lot because I have, and then I'm thinking to myself, how can I place this in these scripts? Yeah. And be able to take on these particular human stances. These, that's what acting is. These human things in various forms and various stories. So anywho. Yeah. That's why it's like learn it all, like you said,
absolutely.
like you both said, learn it all. And it actually acting becomes more fun when you learn more. Yeah. When you learn more.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. As if there wasn't enough you were doing already. No, you sing, you act. We're going to add to that list now your screenwriting, songwriting, but you also want to produce.
Yes.
You want to do more behind the camera.
I do.
So before we got, as we do, we all talk around here before we get on air. And and then we have to say like, wait, we need to save this.
Save it for the podcast.
Save it for the podcast. I know.
Here it comes.
Right. You want to get into producing. That's a newfound kind of energizing thing for you.
Yes, it's new. So I haven't, I've produced documentary work. I have not produced feature film work quite yet. I was a co-producer on a project last year, Poor Herman, and that did well and that was fun. But being new to feature film work, it's gonna be a learning experience. I loved doing it for docu, but docu, as you know, is totally different.
Yes, it is.
You're one is message driven, very focused reality. The other one, it's totally different. Yep. And part of the reason I want to be on the production side is not only to pick and choose what I'm doing as an actor, but you pick and choose the people that again lift your spirit when you're on set. You get to choose what distribution you want to go with. You can choose this that. I want to keep I want everyone to grow together. And when you know the groups that grow very well and work very well, you can kind of plug those in so nicely and have say in what you're going to do. Especially as as a woman or man. Yeah. Or man, but as a woman,
we'll throw
as an
him
actor,
in there. It's fine.
We'll throw him in there. Since you're here, no, totally. For sure, as a man too. But yeah, having a bit more say in the entire process of it all.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you would know.
Yeah. With Tyler and I producing together, I think it's just a different perspective in what you see the film. It's funny because so many people are like, it's so cool what you do. I'm sure you get that all the time. Oh, wow. And I'm like, yeah, it is our job to make it look cool and what we do. That is our job. But actually,
if we're doing our job right, you won't
you
won't
think
notice.
It's cool. That's right. But really, it's behind the scenes of what all is really happening to make that look cool. I call it the Disney theory. Because Disney came up with that, when they said what's behind the doors of Disney, we want the magic to continue in front. Mm-hmm. So all magic out here. You don't see anything that's out of character, anything that's out of the magic zone. Behind is to keep that magic working.
Yeah.
It's the same in film. It's the production team and everybody that is working relentlessly for months prior to, let's say, the 2 months you're shooting. Mm-hmm. You're shooting the fun part for only a short amount of time, considerably for how long it takes to make a film.
It's remarkable because when we were talking like right before this, you were saying like I have to be there 2 months before the actor even shows up so we can do pre-production. Yes. And it's honestly when I was first getting started and learning so much from the producers, and I was like, you guys do the job is 1,000,000 times more difficult than acting. Like acting, you gotta show up and you feel, and then producing, it's like, okay, let's make sure everything is in alignment and perfect, and you have to know this person and that person and this group of and then make sure everything goes smoothly prior, during, and then after.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a much more intensified job that so now when I watch movies, I look for the producers' names because I'm like, oh my God, there needs to be an Academy Award for this, because I'm like, whoa, it's remarkable. It's remarkable how much work goes into it.
There may or may not be a few times and a few remarks made when we see a salary check come across for an actor. You're like, wait, how many lines do they have? Yeah. And the actor, you're like, that is 20 times more what I am making on this project, and this actor has 10 lines and it comes across. And they show up and they have their entourage and they're there for 2 days and then they leave, and you're like, I just spent half my budget on that. You're like, Lord, please let that percentage pay off in the back end.
Right. Yeah. No. Producers, y'all, blood, sweat, and tears. Well, I mean, you know, y'all put in the most.
But I think that's what's so cool about the industry too is it takes all kinds to make a film truly be successful. You know, everybody has to be at their top of their game, doing what their gifts are and what they're qualified to do. And, you know, I know a ton of people that would never want to sit in the producer's role, but I know a ton of producers that could never sit in an actor's role.
Yeah.
So the love and the appreciation for all the different talent that's there. I mean, we were having a conversation before getting on here. It was like, people that I see in the industry that you try to encourage and inspire. It's like, I think Dan and I were talking about this. Dan is one of the producers on the show and helped run it. And we were talking about how you can see a gift in somebody that's just excellent behind a camera. And you're like, you're golden there. And they try to get out from that and go, well, I want to do this over here. And you're like, that not so much. But this is where you shine just so bright. You know, I mean, it's helping people find their sweet spot in this big ball of feature filmmaking, you know, and refining those. And some can step out.
Sure.
You know, Tara and I've talked about that too. Some can step out a bit in it, and, you know, you can help foster that in them to, you know, like yourself, like you've been in acting, you've done all this stuff, and then you're like, hey, I'm going to branch out and come to this producing side of it's a totally different hat, a totally different way of looking at it. Definitely no emotion. Okay, not no, but not that much. You're diffusing emotions basically is what you're doing the whole time firefighting. So your emotions can't be high up and down. It's kind of a straight problem solving hat that's just keeping everything running. And so they're just different personalities, different ways to get involved. I think that's why in Hollywood too, you see a lot of the big actors go to want to direct or go to want to produce, you know, and very few can be successful at it because it's just their giftings are just so different. But then there's some of them that totally excel at it because they now see it from both perspectives, which is way cool.
Well, in LA specifically is known that once you get in a lane, it is hard to get out of that lane. Yeah. And so there's a friend of mine who has been working on the Marvel movies and a bunch of other stuff, and he's got another film partner he works with that wants to direct. But for the last 5 years, he has been a producer's assistant, director's assistant, and as well as an actor's assistant. Because he handles high-profile individuals so well, they bring him on, and he is, you name an A-lister, he has been their assistant on these movies. And he cannot get out of that, and he's a phenomenal screenwriter and a phenomenal director. And so he literally had to change towns in order. He moved all the way to Atlanta just to have that moment of saying, I know that I can write and direct, and he's good at it. But that's definitely something that I think we see is that there are these lanes, and I just see him get dug, and people can't get out of that rut.
And what I realize, and this is what I kind of tell new actors or people coming in, if you have a passion for it, what I will say is the sooner you can get started, it doesn't mean you have to be a producer on the project, but the sooner you can tap into, you know, for example, like I want to do like production, like I want to have a production company so I can have producers do the work. But as soon as you can get your name in different hats, the better.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're not running the same trail, because everyone, you know, sometimes we have a very narrow focus on like, this is what I love. But taking the time to learn about everything and realizing the end result. Like every movie I watch, like I'm going to see, and I'm knowing that Plan B Entertainment, okay, we got Brad Pitt there.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, I got Lucky Chat, Margot. We got this.
Yeah.
So they as soon as they could, like within like 1 or 2 roles, they snapped to production side because they knew that for the long run, they can place themselves better. And if they want to sit back and enjoy the ride, they can do that.
Yeah.
You know, but so the sooner, if someone's passion, and I tell everyone this to start, if your passion is this for the long run, then do it earlier. Then get started earlier than later. You know, you can do it all, you can have it all, and you just got to know it.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know? But yeah, I agree with you, because it's very easy to get on a one-way you know, street, but know your capability is stronger and more. And you should never have to prove yourself, but
Sure.
but even with all the talent and the ability and the amazing, you know, everything that you have going on, sometimes you have to kind of wiggle your
Sure.
way into it, especially with his credibility already on one.
Absolutely. Well, and you think about it,
With
like
A-listers.
we've got people we hire on projects, and
Yeah.
to me, like, this person is a cinematographer, and
Yeah.
I will always recommend this person as a cinematographer.
Yeah.
And if they came to me and said, I'm going to direct this movie and I need $2 million, I would be like, let's start with a short film. I want to see what you've got, but
Yeah.
You got to build your credibility.
Yeah, build your credibility. You know?
Yeah, you definitely, no, 110%. I will say directing is the
hardest
hardest
seat to get in.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
hardest
The
seat.
hardest seat to get in. And everybody wants
100%.
it, and it's the hardest seat to get in.
Yes.
I agree. And
Because you have to show the producer, like you have to show producers, investors, everybody, you know, that you can bring
Yeah.
return.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, if we don't have that you know, confidence that they can do that, then it's, you know, because I've even thought, I would like to eventually direct a couple things. Okay, well, I better start off, you know, at the smaller things, little, you know, build my way up, because it's one thing to be a producer, it's another thing to be an actor, but it's a whole nother ball game to be a director and carry the film and show, you know, and have credibility, so that way we want to hire you.
and
you
your
know.
stylistic way.
Yeah, and your stylistic way. God,
That's huge.
Oh, yeah.
You can think, when we start reading scripts, you start thinking directors. You start thinking what tone, what vibe, what is this, right? Like, who can bring this to life like that? So when I communicate this to you, we're all seeing in the same pictures, right? We're like, you're kind of seeing in that same vein, which is why in your, you know, building your pitch decks and all those kind of things, when you put referenced films, and you're putting the reference films of, like, stylistically, what would this look like? What are you thinking of? Like, I have a script right now that reminds me, like, stylistic wise, of The Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
You know, so you go and look at the director from Greatest Showman and go, okay, you know, where do you start with him? What does that look like? Or Big Fish, who did you know, the guy that did Big Fish,
I was
you
just
know.
thinking that.
You know, all of those type of things. You start looking at those directors, but they've proven themselves on those films.
Yeah.
You know, but you know what you're getting.
Yes.
And I remember in film school, you know, not to be whatever, but in film school, that was one of the big things they talked about in directing class was, if you want to prove yourself as a director, you need to start as a writer, and you work as a writer and a producer, and you get to the point where your script is so good that they're like, this is your baby. Like, we get it. And there are scripts we've seen that I'm like, there is no one else who could, this story is you. Like, clearly it makes sense for you to do that. We may have to bring another AD or someone to help co-direct if you've never worked with actors in that way. Yeah. Or maybe I'll make you, as a director, go take an acting class so you can speak their lingo a little bit more.
Yeah.
But like, when I see a writer-director come across, immediately that's like, thumbs up. Like, I love seeing the directors that are writing their own stuff.
I love that. And because then they have the whole creative realm. It's all in their mind. Like, they know exactly how they want it to come across. Yeah. That's like also like with writing, because, you know, I'm writing now and it's like, I have a vision. Yeah. Like, I see it unfold. So even with me, but the tricky part is what I will say, being a writer and an actress, and you're like, I know I want to play this role, and this is how I see these angles, and this is how I see this. Now I have to find a director that I can work those lingos out with, you know, because I mean, obviously I will not be directing myself in the group, because being a director and an actor, you know, you need another 2-3 weeks added to the budget. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's going to be slower. It's
Yeah.
going to be,
Yeah.
you just, so it's not going to be a quick pace. And but finding someone that you're able to have that chemistry and like discuss how they're going to shoot the film that brings it to life in the way that you want.
Sure.
I agree totally, 110%.
Yeah. Okay, so big exciting things that you have going. Super excited to watch your career evolve into directing and producing and, writing songs for films, just all of it. That's just so exciting. I'm so happy for you that you're doing all those things. We're definitely here cheering you on, that's for sure.
Y'all are so amazing.
Yes. Well, Sara, it's been such a delight to hear your story, and from writing to producing to songwriting, singing, albums coming out, feature films, to your dreams of coming up to producing, directing, and all of that. What a joy it's been to sit with you today. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Your journey.
Thank you both so much.
Yes. And Tyler, thanks for sitting with us today, from all your feature films and involvement in the film industry and wisdom in that. Thanks for sitting with us today as our guest host.
Of course.
Yeah,
I look forward to following the things that you're doing and all of that. Tell us one thing before we go. You just launched a book.
I did.
You did. And what's the name of the book?
Awaken a Dreamer.
That is amazing. Okay, and if one little plug, how do we find that book?
Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay, and they just go in and write in?
Type in Awaken a Dreamer and it'll come right up. I got paperback and Kindle.
Yeah, and that's all about fostering your creativity that's been put into you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Learning how to pursue excellence and creativity.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I love it.
So thank you for sitting with us. And Sara, how does our audience get a hold of you, see what you're doing, follow you, support you?
Yeah, it's SaraAlavi.com. So SaraAlavi.com. And then, and then my social media handles are the Sara Alavi. So Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. There you go.
Perfect. Well,
Thank you both.
thank you, both of you. And y'all go show them some love, follow, support all they're doing. And thanks for tuning in today. Until next time, we'll see you on Set Life.